Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special bonus edition of the Elite City podcast. We have a special guest all the way from the great state of Kentucky, the Kentucky gentleman himself, Mr. Pondo.
Hello, hello, hello. Greetings and salutations, as Keith Lee would say. How is everyone doing?
We are very well. Mr. Rick?
I'm good. I'm a little upset that I didn't make like the hour and 40-minute drive to Buffalo to watch Dynamite, because it's not that far.
I know.
Great show.
I know. It was a fantastic show. And that's what we're going to get into, and we're going to get right into it. Just real quick, MJF's amazing. That's the promo is so great. I mean,
that whole opening segment was excellent. Excellent.
Yeah. Everything about the show is excellent.
Yeah. It was the exact episode of Dynamite, whether you're this is a work person or whether this is a shoot person. It was the episode of Dynamite that they needed to do today. It was the exact show that they needed, and it was great.
Yes, it was.
I felt like that MJF took the pressure off of the CM Punk and the Elite situation and directed it all back on him just by turning on the Buffalo crowd, calling them stupid marks and talking about getting a boatload of money. That right there. I mean, I was still wondering, how long are people suspended? What's going to go on? But in that moment, he completely made me forget all about it. And all I cared about was MJF. And then guess who came out?
Yeah, and he did it in like I liked how he came out as a fake face. Like, it was obvious he was faking.
Correct.
But I like how it was kind of jokey at the beginning. It did set the tone. Like, it's not a funeral. Everyone doesn't have to be sad. Like, we're gonna have fun, and then get onto the show. Like, it was good. And then Moxley was incredible.
It was so good. And I'm gonna, as much as I hate to do this, I have to give my buddy Jeff credit. It pains me, but he was a WCW guy. He was a WWF guy too, but a WCW guy back in the day. And he brought the point up. Stripping everybody of the titles made perfect sense, because those guys don't need titles. Like, put them on someone who might need them, who can elevate them. Punk doesn't need a title. The Bucks and Kenny don't need titles. Put them, like, I'm so happy that spoiler alert, the Lucha Brothers won titles. It's great.
Yeah, I was surprised. We're not going to go match by match because that's a different podcast. But yeah, I was surprised. I thought they were going to go with Best Friends and Orange Cassidy, just because it seemed like they were going with these are the guys who've been here through the trenches for the whole time. We're going to promote them today, and I thought they were going to go with them. But I know obviously no problem with Death Triangle. They're excellent as well.
Yeah, it was a great. The promo was it blurred the lines of reality and kind of made a lot of people question what's going on here. Is this real? Is this not real? And then MJF's wink and nod to the camera, and then turned into MJF. Like you said, he came out and he did the PR thing and then went into character. Oh, so good.
Yeah.
And it showed how good he is.
That was, like, it made me want, I don't know if that's where they're going to go, but it made me really want an MJF Mox. I've already done an MJF Mox feud, but it wasn't in front of crowds. It wasn't like the same sort of feud they would get now. And I feel like that would be wonderful. I mean, MJF versus anybody is going to be great. Like, no matter who comes out of this tournament, it's going to be fun to see.
Oh, it's going to, it absolutely. And this tournament. I mean, they started the tournament of, what was it called?
Tournament of Champions. I love that they highlighted how many championships all these guys have won.
I know.
Like not just AEW championships. Like, oh, Danielson's a 6-time world champion. I like that.
Yes.
Really quickly on MJF, I love the fact that he brought it back to Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
I love that he talked about WWE.
Yeah.
But for as good as MJF was, and MJF knocks it out of the park every time. I mean, we could give him, talk about tin cans and lettuce, and he would make the crowd still hate him. The one thing that I will say is this was the best promo that I have ever heard Moxley do. Yeah. I felt like he talked to all of us individually, whether you're a smart mark, whether you're a fan in the stands, whether you're somebody who doesn't even know what's going on. I felt like he handled that the best he probably could in that situation.
Yeah, it was like don't worry, like we're going to get through whatever we're going through and we're going to make it. And tying it back to the pandemic, that he got them through that so he can get them through this. Like, this is not as bad, and we're all going to get through it. It was perfect.
Honestly, that was a good description of the show. What Pondo said, the show was written for the smart mark, for the Joe Average who was just tuning in, or maybe to someone that's never even watched pro wrestling before.
So what do you guys, on that note, what do you guys think of them not explaining why the titles are vacated? They didn't say it. They just said they're vacated. They didn't tell any reason.
Damn it, I have to give him credit again. Son of a bitch. So, Rick, you brought up another good point. Jeff, damn it. Oh, this is killing me. It wasn't even planned. This is the sad part. He brought up a great point. If, like I said before, the Bucks and Kenny and Punk don't need titles to exist. They're going to make money. They're going to exist and just always be who they are. So if you kind of just take them out of the history aspect of it, everybody tuning in, like, it was kind of a soft reset. Just don't even, like, in the record books, it'll say CM Punk was AEW World Champion, but he doesn't need that. Now, Max, that starts the beginning of his career.
It was like a soft reset, but they didn't like, if you didn't follow, like, say you're someone who just watches wrestling occasionally and you're not on the internet, like you don't read about wrestling on the internet, and you just were like, I'm gonna watch Dynamite tonight because I heard All Out was good, so I'm gonna watch the show.
Oh yeah.
And they're all of a sudden saying, oh, the titles are all shipped, and you're like, what? Why? They didn't tell you. And I know we've talked about this before. Everyone has the internet. You could spend 5 minutes and figure it out.
Right.
But
that's what I was.
But the average Joe Blow fan who is not, let's face it, we love wrestling. Yes, I think all three of us combined could probably watch wrestling, real wrestling, not the stuff from New York. You know what I know they were in Buffalo, but you know what I'm talking about. AEW, or Ring of Honor, the stuff that we really like. We could watch that all the time. And
absolutely,
if you take us, we knew exactly what was going on. Now, the average fan may not get that, but this is the two things I got of it. One, if I'm somebody who's curious, the first thing I'm going to do is when that show goes off, I'm going to say, well, what the heck happened? And then I'm going to look it up. And then if I look up at that media scrum and I see CM Punk going off like crazy, I'm thinking, whoa, wait a minute. I thought wrestling was scripted. I thought wrestling was, Hulk Hogan doing a leg drop back in the day, and these guys seem mad and they seem real, and that may promote me to watch.
Yeah, I can see that.
Absolutely.
The one thing that I'm thinking, and I don't want to dwell on it too much, is but a way they can make money off this easily. When CM Punk comes back, let's assume he does come back. Let's assume he's not fired. Who does he wrestle? If I'm going to make money, he is wrestling Hangman Adam Page.
Yeah. Yeah, there's money there. There's also a ton of money in. There's also a ton of money in Omega.
Right.
In Omega.
And then the way you could do that, I thought, if you wanted to really, I don't know if he is up to still wrestling, but if he could go for one more match, how crazy would it be if you had the Young Bucks versus CM Punk and Ace Steel?
Yeah.
It would be a one-match deal. For us, we know the heat. For the average fan, you could say it's Ace Steel's never got a chance to have a goodbye match and a good go home match.
That's true.
Very true. You could do that. Now,
it was Sean Ross Sapp tweeted today. There's very few problems that happen in professional. Say even this is all 100% real. There's very few problems in wrestling that can't be solved by how much money they can make by working together.
That's a good call.
They can make so much money if they all just like. I know they have egos, and I know maybe they do hate each other, but like they could make so much money if they work together.
All part of the greater good, and they are working together. Oh, I'm telling you.
I think that's the only part where me and you might differ on this. I don't know if they're working together. I think there's an aspect of they worked themselves into a shoot a little bit, and now they're incorporating the shoot into the work, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah.
I think Punk was working when he gave that press conference speech, because there's no way he's sitting beside Tony Khan and doing that without it being a work. I think it may have actually upset the Elite. I don't know if there was a fight. I don't know if Ace Steel bit a guy. but I know that they might have been upset, and maybe there was a fight. Maybe there was something. But now they're turning that into a work again to go forward with the storyline.
Well, I'm assuming you were in on this with Blasco, but whenever he told me that he thought it was all a work, it never had. After hearing Alvarez and Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp and everybody saying, "Okay, this is not a work," I just assumed it wasn't. But then whenever Blasco told me, "Hey, this is what me and Rick think," and a light went off in my head and said, "Oh my gosh, you could print your own money."
Yeah. If you think about it as a work, it's so smart. Like, it's really, really smart.
Genius.
Well, everyone knows who knows me knows I'm not a Young Bucks fan. I call them the teenagers. And whenever they were talking about sides of that story, and not to get ahead of ourselves, they said that the teenagers kicked the door in. Well, there's nowhere they could kick a door in, so we know that's not true.
Exactly.
I mean, I've never been a fan. I like Kenny. I've just never been a fan of those two guys. So, but I don't want to get too far ahead. We did have a trios title match, right?
We did.
Yes, we did.
and Lucha Bros, and it'll be interesting because Pac, I never know. Isn't in the US all the time, so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. But happy for them.
Yeah. I was surprised.
Does either of y'all kind of wish that Pac was, or Pac, we'll say Pac, is a single and not in a group?
Yeah, I could. He's really good, so it'd be nice to have him have more singles matches for sure.
I just think he makes a really good heel. I mean, he's called the Bastard for a reason. You really don't.
And early AEW, he had some really great matches with like Kenny Omega and John Moxley. He did a really good job. So
their Iron Man match was off the hook.
Yeah.
One final thing about the trios match for me. Am I the only one that thinks that Rick Knox is the worst referee ever in history?
He's terrible. And I think that's part of his gimmick. It has to be. It has to be his gimmick because he's really bad.
Yeah.
Has he ever counted to 4? Ever?
And he can't see anything. Like, so much interference that he just like looks away.
I mean, it's like it's the best. And I understand you're going to have spots, and I get that, but at least try to do something. Okay. That's wow.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I have at the top of my list here on my notes. Is that no Jim Ross, and I wonder if that has something to do with what happened at the scrum.
I feel like it does. I feel like they wanted this to be a more, pure AEW thing. And I know Jim Ross has been there since the beginning, but he's a WWE voice for sure. And I think it was a point to showcase the non-WWF, non-ex-WWE guys. And I feel like that's why he wasn't there.
Like, I even thought to myself during Jericho's celebration, like, other than when he said it was his effing locker room, which I thought was cool, but like, that's not a Jericho celebration. Come on.
Right.
Like, they basically said, okay, we'll give you like 2 minutes. He would normally take up like 15 in the ring, and
with his theme and everything. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Like, just that little backstage segment. I was like, they shouldn't have said, they should have just said an interview with Chris Jericho, because that's basically what it was.
Right. But they weren't showcased. I mean, they showcased Form a bit. Like, she had a match, and it was a good match.
Absolutely.
And I don't mean to gloss over that, but they went to the Acclaimed next with Swerve cutting off the Acclaimed,
Oh,
which I
that
thought
was
was
so
which I
good.
thought was perfect for
So
multiple
good.
reasons. Everybody
So
wanted
good.
to hear the Acclaimed and what they had to like. Everyone wanted to hear Max's
Yes.
rap, and they made Swerve, you know, the ex-WWE guy, the heel.
The heel.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And you notice they didn't bring Keith Lee out there because
Right.
the fans fear Keith.
Right.
Exactly.
And they wanted them to be the heels. And that's what makes me think either you're right and it's entirely at work, or if not, they're leaning into it. They're leaning into, we know the fans have a problem with like the ex-WWF guys, WWE guys. So we're going to lean in on that.
I texted you during the show, Rick. Not only 100% is it a work, it's a 150,000% united locker room working together and getting the best out of all themselves right now.
Right.
And I think that was a lot of the point of the episode, I think, to show like they're a united locker room. Even like, you know, Wardlow come out and being like, the internet says I'm not over, but
that was
like
so
all
good.
of it was designed to show, look at all these, you know, people will talk about AEW's all ex-WWE guys and they're feuding, there's anger, but like, look who we have. We have Wardlow, we have, you know, Penelope Ford, who hasn't been on.
Did you guys like the Penelope Ford Tony Storm match?
Loved it.
I felt like it was two lingerie models out there wrestling. I just could not get into it. And I've always liked Penelope Ford, and I'm really big on Tony Storm. I think she's amazing. I guess my thing is, man, do we have to have them wear like something where they look like they're going to be standing on a street corner after they get done working? Yeah,
I can see that.
You know, don't get me wrong. That just totally threw me off. It's like I would talk about how scantily clad Tony was looking, but I was looking for change for $100 bill so I could find Penelope Ford later on. I didn't. Man, I just felt like that took away from what could have been a pretty good match. And the Wardlow squash, don't get me wrong, Wardlow is great, but man, does anybody else feel bad for Tony Nese? This is a guy.
Tony Nese is actually really good.
Yeah, he is.
He's ex-WWE
he has an amazing look. He's a pretty good promo. He's a really good wrestler, especially for his size. And man, they just make him out to be, you know, I know they're trying to do something with him and Josh Woods. You know, they're going to be like what you guys talked about something a little while back about the Butcher and the Blade and how they should be a tag team that is better. And you guys nailed it, by the way. Knocked it out of the park on that one. And I feel the same thing with Woods and Nese. They're going to do the same thing with them. They're going to keep them right in the middle, I think. And these are that can really wrestle and should be promoted just like the Butcher and the Blade. And I hope that they do something more with them than just kind of what they're doing now.
Yeah, I was surprised at the Tony Nese thing because, I mean, it's Wardlow, so that's what his matches are. But as it ended, I was just like, my thought was, it's either too bad or pretty cool of Tony Nese to be okay with that because they made him look really bad. Yeah. And the fact that he was seemingly cool with it, like, I guess that makes him like a, you know, I don't know, but I think he should be somewhere else. I think he should be doing something better than banning squash by.
See,
and nothing against Wardlow. Like Wardlow's great, but
totally looked at that whole segment through totally different lenses. I looked at it as, they're making a statement because Tony Nese was in NXT.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the first thing that I thought of.
Oh, I never even thought of that. That's awesome.
That makes a lot of sense. And
for tonight.
And that was the kind of the theme of the show. Like, we're not just ex-WWE guys. We're our own thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, just for tonight, like, and it gave them wiggle room because his tag team partner came to make the save, and nobody came to help Wardlow. So it's not like, they didn't ruin Nese, but it was like, okay, here you are. And again, the person that saved him, ex-Ring of Honor guy, they didn't touch him.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny.
Speaking of, and Pondo mentioned Butcher and Blade, they're from Buffalo, are they not?
I know. I was pissed they weren't.
I'm surprised they weren't on the show.
I have that down in my notes. I'm like, where are they at? Unless they're going to be on Dynamite, or Rampage, excuse me. That makes no sense because they would have been an easy pop. And trust me, they probably need some airtime. You know.
And they did I saw they were promoting. They did a meet and greet before the show, so they were there. It's weird that they weren't on TV.
They'll probably do Rampage.
I mean, it would make sense. It would be very, very weird to bring them to their hometown, have 2 shows in their hometown, and then not put them on TV.
Unless, well, no, I was gonna say they just wrestled 2 weeks ago. I was gonna say unless somebody got hurt, but I don't think anybody's hurt.
Or they could. I mean, they could just have them come out. They don't have to actually even have a match. They could have done something.
That's true. Maybe they let them not dark as in the show dark, but a dark
right.
match,
They'll have a dark match before it's possible.
Yeah, family and friends type deal, and
right.
And they could have had them come out as baby faces too, because they're not baby faces. If they have them come out as baby faces on a dark match before, that makes sense.
Right. That's true.
Oh, that's true. Well, no, it does make sense why they weren't there, because they wouldn't want to have. Well, no, because he was on tonight, but only for a second. Andrade, they wouldn't want to have him on TV, but he kind of was on TV.
Yeah, Andrade's got a weird thing going on.
Yeah, very weird. I don't know, but very interesting.
And then moving on to Bryan Danielson versus Adam Page. Great match, of course. Obviously,
of course. I mean,
what did we expect?
I mean, it's about all you can say about how.
Were you surprised? I wasn't, but were you surprised that it wasn't the main event?
No, because they were going to give the main event to Garcia.
Yeah, it was in Buffalo. They hyped it up too. It also had more hype to it. And my thinking was, no offense to Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta or ROH, but this was a show where they knew a lot of people would be tuning in and want to keep them tuning in. And I could see people tuning out who aren't huge wrestling fans, who aren't big AEW fans. I could see people turning off a Garcia Wheeler Yuta match, being I don't know these guys.
Especially with it being a pure rules. Good call.
Yeah. But I mean, they're not going to turn off Bryan Danielson and Hangman Page. They're going to stay through that and then keep watching because there's only one more match left.
Correct.
Was you surprised Danielson waved off the handshake?
Yeah. Danielson's really good at being a heel and a face at the same time, even so he can make it work. But it was
he's so as you always say, Rick. Literally, the dude is too good at everything.
He is.
I want to find something he sucks at. There just legit has to be something
haircut.
Terrible at.
Haircut is the answer.
Like I told you, it's that one tweet that I saw that I don't know who made it, that Bryan Danielson is the best wrestler in the world. And at any point in the last 10 years, you could say that.
That's right.
And it would be, if not correct, pretty close. It would be, he's in the discussion.
Yeah.
I love the match. I thought it was a pay-per-view match, honestly. I could see that on a pay-per-view and I would not be upset. There was 2 major problems I had with the match. One, does every wrestler do a kip up now? It's like a law. Every wrestler has to do a kip up in AEW.
It's like topes to the outside of the ring. Everyone does them now.
It's like that. And the other thing is, sometimes it's okay to have this, but what is up with the okay, chop me now? Now I'm going to chop you. Okay, chop me now. It was in every single match except for the girls' match.
It's a very New Japan thing, but they do it a lot.
I understood it whenever it was Kingston and Ishii. I understood that. That made sense. And anybody who listened to this that did not see that and you think wrestling is, quote, fake, unquote, watch that match and look at their chests. That's all you have to do.
What I actually liked about it today is Hangman was either punching or chopping something Danielson, and Danielson was kind of egging him on to hit him more. And I think it was Regal, but it might have been Excalibur who was just he knows his arm is sore from earlier. He's trying to wear him out.
By hitting him?
Oh, yeah.
Which was it was a good explanation. I mean, I don't know if it's actually explains anything, but the fact that they tried to explain it I thought was good.
Did the right person go over?
I was torn because I want Danielson to win the title. I want him to be champion, but I also wanted Hangman to win the match. So I don't know.
I guess I was like you. I wanted Danielson to win, but part of me in the back of my mind thought with as much as Paige has been drawn through the mud.
Yeah.
With everything, I thought they might have him go over. But I think they made. I think they made the right call by having Danielson there. I think that was right.
Yeah, I could see wanting Paige to go over. Just you're right because of everything he's been through and his name's been through. He hasn't done anything as far as I can tell. Really, he made like one comment 3 months ago that people are still mad about. But Danielson, I think, hasn't been really. He's had great matches, but he hasn't been like a main event guy. He hasn't been contending for titles and whatever. And I think it might be time to have him there.
Good call.
I agree. And tonight, I thought was done perfectly, and it sets up Jericho and Danielson.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Which I was going to say sets up the people that took the risk that weren't AEW fans tonight. That everybody that's what they're banking on. Tell your buddy. They're like, dude, next week. Not only was the show tonight amazing, next week you get Danielson and Jericho.
Yeah,
free television.
They really did a very good job using tonight to build up this week, next week, and the Grand Slam the week after, knowing that they're going to get a bigger audience because of everything going on.
Yep. And it was just a commercial tonight. That's all it was. It was amazing.
Right. Jericho Danielson next week. Does Daniel Garcia come out and stand ringside?
Yeah, I think I could see it being. I forget what match it was. There was a Hulk Hogan Randy Savage match where Miss Elizabeth was in both corners. I don't know if that was WrestleMania or where that was, and she kind of stood in the middle and like went back and forth. I feel like not to call Daniel Garcia Miss Elizabeth, but it was. But it was. I could see them doing something like that where he's like stands on one side and Danielson gets thrown out and he goes to check on him, and then Jericho gets thrown out and he goes to check on him, and like you don't know whose corner he's in.
Right. Hey Bosco, I have a question.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Jungle Boy Jack Perry's promo?
It was fire. Just he opened his mouth and flames came out. It was sick.
I like the fact that they're calling him Jungle Boy Jack Perry now.
Definitely, yes.
They continue to do that.
Have to. Yeah, it's great.
And they let people know that, that Christian has to have surgery.
Yeah.
They did it without, coming out and blah, blah, blah. And that, if you caught that, and with the way the fire was in his promo, you did. And that was perfect. It was a perfect way to do it because it exposed him, gave him a little bit of oomph. He had a little bit of oomph in him. He also talked about how Luchasaurus did this stupid stuff and how, whenever Christian comes back, he's going to, get his butt beat.
Yeah, and it sets up in the meantime for him to go against Luchasaurus.
Right.
Okay, now I'm going to throw questions your way because the first thing I thought of, because you almost have to right now, do you bring Marco Stunt back?
I've thought for a while that would be cool if they did that, but I don't know what that relationship is like.
I don't think so. I think that ship has sailed. I think that ship has sailed far away.
Okay.
I think it would be cool, but I don't know if I don't know. I think Pondo is right that they might not have a working relationship anymore.
I mean, if you bring him back, what does he do? He
and put him in Jungle Boy's corner. Make him be the new cheerleader.
They already have too many people on the roster as it is.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
that's true.
I could see them bringing him back on like a one night thing to have him interfere in a match or something for one night. But I think by already calling him Jungle Boy Jack Perry and not just Jungle Boy, they're trying to make him a bit more serious. And having Marco show up with them might hurt that.
That's true. It's a good call. Very interesting.
And their roster has 1 million people, which again, it points that obviously the roster is huge. But this time, just like when there was all those injuries, it shows the importance of having such a big roster because they lost Kenny Omega, CM Punk, and the Young Bucks and just still had a really good show. Like they could lose a bunch of top guys and continue to put on great TV. So that's one of the benefits of having such a big roster.
Almost like it was planned, huh?
Oh, and Malachi, which we haven't even talked about. Malachi Black.
Oh, that's true. Malachi Black. Go
So
ahead,
I have
sir.
a question for you, Rick, if that's okay.
Of course.
Yes.
Yuta versus Garcia. That was the main event.
Yes.
I have two questions, and both y'all can answer, obviously, because you guys are knowledgeable and everybody tunes in because you guys actually know what the crap you're talking about. And,
Hey, come on. My check didn't clear yet, dude. Come on.
seriously. You guys bring knowledge to even people like me who's watched wrestling since I was a wee little lad. Two questions. One, did the right person go over, which I think they did? And two, whenever they showed Jerry Lynn in the front row, did he not look like he could wrestle right now?
Oh,
yes, and yes, and yes.
He wasn't
both of those things. Yep. Daniel Garcia was the right choice.
Yeah.
And yes, Jerry Lynn looks incredible. Like he looks like if they were like he's wrestling tomorrow, I'd be like, okay, of course. That makes perfect sense.
He somehow looks like younger than he did when he was young.
That's what I thought too, Blasco. I was like, dang it. When he had the long hair and he was the new Eppin show, I'm like, dang, he looks like he's getting ready to come in here right now and just start dominating.
Yeah, for sure.
There was one bump where Yuta landed. It was a top rope German suplex.
Oh, it was terrible.
Yeah.
And
my head hurt.
I thought for sure that Yuta was done.
Yeah.
I was like, I was getting ready to text. I had the phone in my hand. I was getting ready to text Blasco because another person texted me because they were watching as well. And he just kneeled there. Yuta did, and then went down. So I assumed he was okay. But that bump right there was just sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was gnarly.
Now, did anyone feel bad for Yuta at the end when Danielson came out and was like celebrating with Danny Garcia? Like Yuta's in his group. And it was kind of just like, yeah, but you lost, so this is my new friend. Like I felt like that a little bit.
Did you think Danielson was going to? Go ahead.
I was just saying tough love from Danielson.
Did you think Danielson was going to shake Yuta's hand as well?
I did actually. I
100% thought he was going to. Yes.
I never saw it. I'm not saying he may have when the cameras went off, but for sure. I never saw it.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
I think that might be I could see them having both. I still think Daniel Garcia is going to turn down both Jericho and Danielson, but I could see them having a thing where Yuta and Garcia are both in the BCC, but they're kind of like still rivals to be like the next guy.
That'd be great.
That was a good show. I do have a question. Did you guys do anything fun Sunday night?
I watched the pay-per-view.
You did? Did you watch anything after?
Oh, yes. I actually didn't watch after. I woke up the next morning to be like... I did
next morning.
And checked my phone and was like, oh, stuff happened.
I watched the whole thing live, and I'm assuming we're going to talk a little bit about what happened.
Yes.
Definitely.
That's why we're here.
First off, Tony Khan. Wow. I'm personally against any EVP being a wrestler.
I agree with that.
That's current. If you look at Mid-South back in the day, yes, I'm showing a little bit of my wrestling knowledge. Bill Dundee was one of the best bookers they had. He barely wrestled. And the reason why was because you have a tendency to put yourself high up. Everyone has an ego.
Yeah.
And I think going forward, I hope that if he still has EVPs, I hope there are people who train and don't wrestle.
Yeah.
Because then you've got a situation where everyone knows I don't like the Young Bucks. I think they turned face because FTR was getting cheers. They knew that if they wrestled FTR, they were going to be bad. So they had to turn themselves face to get the new titles because FTR was overshadowing them. That's just my personal opinion.
I do think there's something between the Bucks and FTR because it's weird that even when the Bucks had the AEW tag titles and FTR had everything else, that they didn't have a match.
And I think that I like Kenny. I do. Kenny's okay. I think he's a good wrestler. I think Okada showed how he can elevate somebody over in Japan, but I think Kenny's good. The one thing that was weird was they had a meeting today with wrestling talent.
Yeah.
And the 3 people who hosted that meeting were all ex-WWE guys.
Yeah, Danielson, Jericho, Moxley. Yeah, and I think part of the reason for that was, and not to bash AEW, obviously we love AEW, but Jericho said in the press conference that this is a big company now. This isn't like a bunch of guys hanging out and having a wrestling show. This is a multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar company, and we have to start acting like it. And I think that's true. And I think part of the reason they had those guys talk is because, rightly or wrongly, they worked in WWE, which is a huge company, and they know what it's like to work at a huge company. And I'm not saying that they're going to tell them, Vince ran things better, this is how you should do it. I don't think that's the case. But they know how to work in a massive company where there's, lots of people involved and lots of egos involved and lots of eyes on the product. And they're kind of telling people, this is not an indie show anymore. This is big time.
So Blasco, I've valued your opinion for years now. I will ask this question: did CM Punk step over the line? Did he do something that's a fireable offense at that scrum?
No, not at all. First off, it's fake.
But you are still riding that wagon, aren't you?
Yes.
Your horse
like 300,000%. It's classic. It's like pro wrestling 101. I mean, this has probably happened a million times. This, honestly, he probably just went back and watched like something from 1970 like 2 weeks ago, and then just submitted it in writing and was like, here, we're going to do this, and everybody was all in. Like, it's just classic old school wrestling. Like, I got in an argument today with the youngin on Twitter. Hold on, I want to prepare for this one. When I was stating the fact that I feel that this is a work very hard, and he basically got in and said, no, it's real, blah blah blah. And my first question was, A, were you there? No, you weren't. So don't say, well, there has to be security camera. Well, yeah, because of course there's security camera footage of something that didn't happen, because it never happened. Like, that's why it's never going to get released. Everybody has a cell phone nowadays. I'm sorry, if I worked in AEW and I saw someone biting Kenny Omega, I'd be pulling out my phone and videoing that. Not to mention, everybody on the roster has a freaking vlog. There's cameras everywhere. It would be on film. Yeah, of course it would, because it would have really happened then. It didn't happen. So this is just all part of the plan. This was it's laid out. Everybody in the back is involved. This is old school kayfabe wrestling, 100%. It's back. Vince McMahon tried to kill it, and that's exactly, CM Punk knows this. And he knows that there's a whole generation. He's like, watch what I'm going to do to the internet tomorrow. And the whole locker room laughed. That was probably the first meeting that they had. The second meeting was Jericho and those guys telling them, okay, you did a great job. Nothing leaked. Keep it up. This is phase 2, blah, blah, blah. And it just guarantees, like, CM Punk is now Andy Kaufman. He doesn't need anything, because he can do anything he wants in professional wrestling now. He owns the world right now. Like he literally turned people that loved him at the beginning of that pay-per-view to, like, they really want him fired, and they're like saying how miserable he is and he's a locker room cancer. Come on, this is genius. It's genius.
Rick, are you hooked up to this?
I'm like 50%. I think Punk was working when he did the scrum. I think that was him. I don't know. My question, like I mentioned, I don't know who else is involved. I think Punk decided, I'm going to do a thing. And I saw someone mention, like, if he knew he was injured, it's more likely that he was working, because I could see him saying, I'm injured, I can't be on the show, but I want people talking about me. I want people talking about AEW. So I'm going to do a thing that gets everyone to pay attention and watch and talk about me. I don't know who else was involved in that. I don't know if that was Punk just deciding that on his own. I don't know if that was Punk and Tony Khan. I don't know if that was Punk, Tony Khan, and the Elite. I don't know who else. I think Punk worked at the press conference. I think that was a work. I think it's entirely possible, though, that it brings me back to the Brett Sean situation, where Brett and Sean were both kind of agreed that we're gonna talk about our backstage stuff on TV because it gets people paying attention. But then Sean made a comment about Brett cheating on his wife with Sunny.
Sunny Day.
and that was the end of them working together. Then Brett was upset and they weren't going to work together anymore. So I could see that happening. I could see Punk going and doing this to get attention, but then going a little bit too far and upsetting someone. And I don't know if there was a fight. I'm pretty sure he still didn't bite anyone. But
there are three things that worry me about this situation. One, they don't have cameras in locker rooms. It's one of the things that you can't, because if somebody's stripping down and that gets out,
right,
obviously,
like
and
security cameras, yeah.
Okay, so that's one. Two, by the time that this happened, it was pretty late, so most of the talent had already left. Unless you were being called about to do a media thing, which the Elite were supposed to, but they ended up not. And there was only a couple of people still left there. So there wouldn't be anybody to see this, which means it could be planned, but it also could be also that nobody saw it. That's the 50-50. The last one that worries me, and there is one, is that there was somebody in – what I don't understand is, why was Ace Steel's wife in the locker room with CM Punk? I know she was watching Larry the Dog, but why would she be in a men's locker room? Now, this one goes towards Blasco, because why would you have a female in a men's locker room in a situation like that where you know he's going to change clothes? He is not going to wear those tights and all that stuff he had on. He's probably going to take a shower. And she was supposedly in the locker room, according to Ace Steel and all them. At some point, that kind of pushes me a little bit towards Blasco. I'm like you, I'm 50-50. But the thing that doesn't make any sense was Ace Steel's wife was with Larry the Dog in the men's locker room.
The only reason I think
why wasn't she sitting in a different area?
The only thing I think is maybe Punk had his own room, like his own room where his stuff was, and that might not necessarily be his room where he like gets changed or takes a shower, but that might be his room where his stuff is.
That's possible, but that's the first thing that I thought of. The other thing that on the one story, like I said, it said that the young bucks, who I call the teenagers, kicked the door in. Well, everyone knows I don't like them. There's no way those two little, that weigh maybe 300 pounds combined, are going to kick a door in.
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of the specific details of the fight, if say there was I don't think that necessarily was a fight. I think there was an argument. I think they might have yelled at each other. I think they might have told each other off, maybe shoved each other a little bit. I don't think anyone was, hitting anyone with chairs or biting or kicking down doors. Like, I think that was just, if it happened, say it's not a work, and it did happen, I think that's guys trying to seem tougher than they are. To be like, oh yeah, they had a 6-minute brawl in the back. Like yeah. They didn't have a 6-minute brawl. Maybe they had a 6-minute argument.
Yeah, and the final thing on it is, if I'm Matt or Nick Jackson, I know that CM Punk is trained MMA fighter. I never said he was good, but he's a trained MMA fighter.
Oh, yeah.
More so than like
there is no
so than
way I'm taking a swing at CM Punk, because he's gonna I don't care if there's two of them, he's gonna do things to the teenagers that don't make any sense. And for anybody who doesn't know Ace Steel's legit.
Yeah,
he can throw. Legit. So that I don't know. Blasco, you might be the genius in this, man. I thought I could say.
I mean, Vince McMahon, if that wasn't a work, Vince McMahon did dare Bret Hart to punch him.
That's true.
Which was not a smart decision either.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm 50-50 on it. I think there's a lot of aspects of it that are a work. I think that there's a lot of aspects of it that could not be a work. I think it's a little, I don't know. What do you guys think on all the rest of you touched on this, Pondo? All the wrestling journalists, like the Sean Ross Sapps and Brian Alvarez's and everyone, is saying it's not a work. Do you think that somehow they're all in on it, or they don't know, so they're saying it's not a work because no one's told them otherwise, so they're going to assume it's real?
Blasco, you want to go first on that?
Yeah. This is where I think the whole locker room is in on it. This is where you never get mixed signals. If everybody, like, when they had this first talent meeting, say that everybody's in on it. This is whenever, Sean Ross Sapp and Ethan Page are on a toy hunt, and you know, hey man, it's loose. There's no live. Is like, is that a work? And you still got to work it. You're like, yeah, dude, absolutely. So then Sean Ross Sapp could be like, look, I had a really one-on-one with this source that I really wholeheartedly trust. It's not a work, guys. He's being worked and not even realizing it because the locker room's in on it. Everybody, it's a 100%. It's an operation at this point. It's not even a work. It's an operation.
The only thing that I counteract with that was, if anybody knows Brian Alvarez, he is one of those guys. I'm not a big Alvarez fan. I'm just not. I like Mike Johnson, love Sean Ross Sapp. I'm a member of Patreon. I tolerate Meltzer. I'm not a huge Meltzer fan either, really. But Alvarez got called out in the press conference.
Yeah.
And if it is a work with his ego, he would. I think if he knew about it, he would say something. So maybe they are getting work. And I don't know.
I do feel like there's a couple times where Sean Ross Sapp has said things that make me think he thinks it's a work, but he's not going to say that.
100%.
I can't think of what specific tweets, but like even the tweet, like, these guys should work together and make money. Like, it makes me think that like he knows it's a work, or he just has his own suspicions, but he can't prove it. So he can't come out and say, guys, it's all a work, because he has no proof that it is. So he's hinting at that it could be.
And see, this is going to be my small little 2 cents on wrestling journalism. Since for some reason people within wrestling consider wrestling journalism legit.
Right.
Okay, you're covering something that's fake to begin with. Like, we understand, like, not the athleticism, like the
sure,
aspect
we all
wrestling.
know what you mean. Yeah.
So why don't one of these people, like, none of them ever go out on a limb? Like, if I mean, we're me and Rick are the furthest thing from journalists or anything, and I'm gonna die on this hill, like, until someone comes out and shows me the arrest records or whatever, whatnot, or a lawsuit, then I'll believe it. But whatever, like, that's where I am.
Okay. And there were two other major things that happened in this media scrum, at least in my opinion. The first one being Toni Storm. At the end of her interview, when they asked her about Thunder Rosa, she was like, if she's injured.
Right.
And by saying that, the way she said it, normally this would be something that would kind of be prominent, but with everything else going on. And then she basically said, hey, if when she comes back, I'll beat her ass for the title. And there has been a rumor floating around today that Thunder Rosa asked for her release.
Yeah, that was I think Sean Ross Sapp shot that down. But
it did get shot down. But
that was a rumor. When it happened, I thought that was part of the work. I thought that was they're going to make all the XW guys seem like jerks. And so they're going to have Toni Storm throw that in there, which, you're right, would normally get a lot of coverage, but got zero coverage because of Punk. Just like Swerve and Keith Lee kind of acting dismissive of the Acclaim.
With Swerve and Keith Lee, I think they genuinely got upset while they were up there. Whenever people were saying, hey, I would have called an audible and I would have had the Acclaimed one.
Yeah, that was a really terrible question, because the press conference itself was like it was a quasi-shoot, quasi-work press conference, right? Like, all the wrestlers were acting like it was real. They weren't, other than Jericho, who was just like, MJF is a good guy. He's going to be a great face. But everybody else was kind of acting as if, this is after the show, but we just had real wrestling matches. Like, they were all kind of acting like Toni Storm going, I'm going to beat Thunder Rosa when she comes back. Like, that's character.
Yeah.
Right. So they were kind of in character. And to ask, oh, would you have called an audible? First of all, it's offensive to the guy sitting there with the belt. because
it was so dumb.
And second of all, like, what's Tony Khan going to do? Say, yeah, I definitely would have.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
In front of him.
It's kind of like when you ask a referee during a match, did you pull hair? Are you going to sit there and go, yes, I pulled hair? Of course you're not going to say
Yeah.
that. You know?
Yeah. It was a really terrible question. And I think that kind of threw them off and maybe upset them to be like, what are you talking about? Why are you asking that question? That's like wrecking this whole media thing.
I feel like Keith Lee really thought about what he was saying and tried to be thoughtful. I think Swerve didn't care.
Yeah. Keith Lee is a very thoughtful, intelligent guy. So he was very careful with what he said. He said something like, I don't read the internet because it's a waste of my time, but that was as far as he went. Whereas Swerve was just like, I don't care. I'm going to say whatever I want.
But when he said he hated social media, that was amazing.
Blasco, I think I definitely think that Swerve would probably know what a shower buzz is.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Oh, shower buzz. Like
shower
drinking
buzz.
in the shower. Like drinking in the shower.
Yeah, I think you think you might know what that is.
Yeah, it's not, I hurt myself.
No, I'm thinking Swerve probably knows what that is too. I think he's done that a time or two.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's like, you know,
Swerve really seems like the coolest guy.
Oh, he's the coolest dude. His new song rocks too.
Yeah, he really seems like the coolest. Like Keith Lee seems like a really smart, like nice guy, but Swerve just seems really cool.
I have one final question that I wrote down, and I pose it to both you guys. And once again, thank you so much for inviting me. This has been a blast. I've had a great time. You guys are very knowledgeable, and I appreciate you letting little old me share in your wisdom. I appreciate that. Let me, as Ernie Ladd would say, I got to sit under the learning tree today. Thank you. Where do we go now? What happens with Punk and with the Elite? Is this a suspension? Are they gone? Will they come back? Will we know how long they're suspended? Like, we didn't really even know about Kingston's suspension until after he came back.
Right.
And this is completely different because now we know these guys are at least gone from tonight. I'm not saying they might not magically show up next week, but with Grand Slam coming up, can you really afford to not have them on that show?
I mean, normally I would say no because they're obviously big stars and there's a lot of buzz. But they did pull MJF off TV for like over 3 months, so I could see them. I could see them doing the same thing with these guys. If it's real, I still think it could be. I can't see Punk. I mean, people are talking about firing Punk. I think that's ridiculous. I don't think he's going to get fired. I think suspending him is fine. I do think taking the EVP titles away from the EVPs, whether or not this is real, I think that's a good idea because you're right. They're wrestlers. They shouldn't be also executives. Like that's a bad idea. Every time it's ever happened, and Tony Khan knows wrestling. He knows what happened in WCW. He knows what happened when Triple H married Stephanie McMahon. Like he knows how these things happen and how Triple H, buried absolutely everyone for years just because he could, and how Kevin Nash buried, he knows. He's not naive like that. So I think they shouldn't be EVPs anymore. And I don't know if they'll take that as like punishment and think, oh, now we don't want to wrestle because you're taking away our EVP. Like that's where I think there could be some drama because I don't think they should be EVPs. And if he's going to take that away from them, he has to do that carefully.
I guess with the MJF thing, that's one person. This is 4 people.
Yeah.
And it's 4 of your top probably 7 people.
Yeah. I mean, they did do a lot. They did go a long time without a lot of their top guys, but Tony Khan was just talking about how happy it was that he was to have everyone back. So, and CM Punk draws ratings, like him or not. I mean, the shows that he's on, they get ratings.
They draw. What do you think, Blasco? And I have one question to add to you. Does Tony Khan need a booker, Blasco?
No, definitely doesn't need a booker. Dude slays.
I think he needs everything other than a booker. I think he's really good at booking shows.
Yeah.
I think he can't do all the things he's doing. I don't think he can like negotiate ROH media rights and run the show and negotiate contracts. And I think that's too many things. I think he's got to have some other people. I think that's where there are people like, Tony Schiavone and Mark Henry and Jim Ross, if he's well enough. And like he has a lot of guys who could do a lot of that stuff. And he doesn't need to do it. He's doing too many things.
I totally agree with that.
Even when he was talking about like, oh, if there's an ROH TV show, I'm going to write it myself. I'm like, no, don't do that. That you're already writing. You're already writing a bunch of TV. What are you doing? Like, I know this is your company and like you want your fingerprints all over it, or you think you're the only one who can do it, but like you can't. Like even Vince McMahon had people working under him, and Vince McMahon was the biggest control freak there was, and he still had a team. So I mean, he needs a team.
My final question, I promise. What do you think the rating? What do you think? Think 1.6 million tonight?
I'm gonna stick. I'm gonna die on that hill too. I said they were gonna set an all-time record tonight, so I'm gonna stick on that. So yeah,
I think the highest they've got was 1.4 for the first episode. I think they get close. I don't know if they go over, but I think they're close.
I said 1.6, and I think they'd be happy with that. I don't know if it's sustained. I do think that maybe having Yuta versus Garcia as the main event, I think, Rick, you may be right, that if you're somebody who wanted to know what all the chaos was, you don't know who Yuta is, you don't know who Garcia is, and you don't know what's on Channel 7, but you're going to find out.
Right, and it's an ROH pure time. I think if they hadn't already booked that one in advance, there's no way they'd put that match on today.
Yeah, I was just going to say, they kind of shot themselves in the foot on that one. But that was already booked. I mean, what are you going to do? You can't take that away from Daniel Garcia.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it next week. My final thoughts on the work situation here and why I think that everybody is in on it. As I said from the beginning when we started this podcast, the MJF thing was a work. It was done perfectly.
Yeah,
perfectly. This is like they're going to keep pushing the boundaries. What they wanted to see if MJF's biggest thing in wrestling. Let's just take him off TV for a while, see what happens. Like we'll make this big thing out of it. He'll still get internet buzz. Blah 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 blah. Okay, say do it. Well, what happened? Not too much. Okay, so if you sustain this level of like hardcore, old school, the locker room is a unit, you don't tell anybody what's going on situation, you can get people off TV and like save careers. Like, you could literally have like a loser leaves home match, just write someone off TV for like a year and a half, but just continue to pay them and have them miraculously come back. It's done so well, and people, it was brilliant because it was unlearned, and there's a whole generation of people who have no idea that it even exists, and now that it exists, just go on Twitter and it's on fire and it's amazing. It's the most entertainment I've had in the longest time. I love it.
If I ever grow up, I'm going to be you, Blasco.
I don't know, man.
Once again, real quickly, thank you guys so much for having me. It was a pleasure meeting you, Rick. Blasco, as usual, it's always great. I tell everybody this podcast it gets better every week. You guys get more insightful. I learn all kinds of things. And if you're an AEW fan and you're just checking this out for the first time, don't judge us because of me. These guys are the real deal. They're the prime rib, and they're the ribeye steak. I'm just the asparagus on the side. Think about the meat and potatoes you got here. I'm just some kind of really bad fat-free dressing that you might not be accustomed to. But these guys are the main event, and they do a fantastic job. And I hope everybody continues to listen, because this really needs to grow, because it's a good thing that you've got two average guys, although I think both of you are very, very above average, but two average wrestling fans that are explaining stuff, bringing in scenarios. Blasco has blown my mind because he thinks it's all a work.
He totally changed my mind last podcast about the Montreal screw job. I've 25 years I've believed that it's 100% real.
It's like I said earlier.
And now I'm doubting myself.
It's like I said earlier, when you guys talked about the butcher and the blade that one night, I was like jumping and pumping my fist up, and there was somebody with me because I was listening to the headphones. And she goes, "What the hell is wrong with you?" I said, "You don't understand. If I say the butcher and the blade, you're going to think I'm talking about a movie." But I had said that, and you literally a week before, and you guys nailed it. And a lot of the stuff that you bring out is true, legit stuff, and it's not being said. I do hope that ROH takes off soon. I think a lot of these people, like Tony Nese, who was on tonight, could really. Woods and Nice on ROH would be amazing.
Unreal.
I said I didn't have one more question. I do have one more question. I apologize. Dax Hardwood. I love him as a wrestler. Yeah. But why do we have to have him get beaten singles all the dang time?
He's really good. I'm actually surprised at how good he is at a singles wrestler because I would have expected him to be a singles wrestler. But you're right. He loses all the time, and he's going to lose again.
He's getting an ROH world title shot. Now, don't get me wrong. I think Dax is great. He is fantastic. Can you tell me one thing he has done to earn an ROH world title shot?
Yeah, the ROH situation as a whole is, I think Tony Khan expected to have a TV deal by now. And
100%.
So he doesn't really know what to do with it. And he's just putting good matches. Like, he just thinks it's going to be a good match, so they're going to do it. But it's a little strange that there's not any sort of they made such a big deal about Claudio becoming ROH world champion to make the title a big thing. Right. Now they're just Dustin Rhodes and Dax Hart. Yeah, you're going to fight for it. It's a little weird.
I understood the Dustin thing. That was okay because he had never really been, quote, world champion, unquote. Yeah. But I mean, you've got other people. You could have put Jay Lethal in that match. You could have put Josh Woods. Could you imagine a Josh Woods Claudio match? Especially people who've never seen Woods wrestle. That could tear the house down. I'm not saying Dax won't. It's just Dax is so good, he becomes a sacrificial lamb because he comes out and gets beat every time.
I agree. I'm a little confused by the FTR booking in general because, I mean, they have all those belts, but what do they actually really do? They're good. They're good. They're great wrestlers. I love them as wrestlers, but they're not really. They're kind of just there.
Right. When was the last time they defended the AAA belts? Or when's the last time they went over to Japan and the IWGP belts?
Yeah, it's a little odd.
I'm
not sure what they're doing. I think that's another casualty of an ROH not having a TV show. But again, even if they had a TV show, I don't know if FTR should be in ROH. I feel like they should be. I don't know why they're not AEW champions.
I don't either.
But that's another story.
And on that note, we will call it a night on our special episode. So, Mr. Pondo, Mr. Rick, thank you. This was just a little live reaction in the crazy world that CM Punk created on his work that is totally a work. And if you're falling for it, you're a mark because it's a work. Anyways, until next time, later.